On December 7th, Pope Francis held a special meeting called a consistory, where he appointed 21 new cardinals. 20 of these new cardinals have the right to vote. With these appointments, the Pope has now chosen more than 80% of the cardinals who will participate in the next conclave, clearly shaping the future direction of the Church. But do you really know who these men are and the significance of their appointments? Today, we will analyze the 5 most important cardinals, figures who could profoundly influence the destiny of the Church. Each appointment carries with it a vision and a perspective. Will it be a sign of continuity with tradition or of radical change? Stay with us. The 5th name could change all predictions. One of these cardinals in particular is key to understanding the future landscape of the Church. Let's begin. From Peru comes Monsignor Carlos Castillo Matasoglio, a figure who cannot go unnoticed. With an academic background linked to liberation theology, often controversial for its connections to Marxist ideologies, this appointment reflects the boundary-pushing nature of Pope Francis's choices. Castillo Matasoglio is distinguished by a bold reading of the Gospel, based on a poor church for the poor. Despite being a noble and lofty ideal, this approach has raised questions about the doctrinal coherence of his ideas. For some, it represents the growing politicization of the Church, in which social priorities risk overshadowing spiritual and sacramental ones. This appointment marks a shift in perspective, with a church hierarchy increasingly focused on socio-political issues, sometimes at the expense of traditional doctrine. It is an outward-looking church, which for some runs the risk of losing its core identity. Castillo Matasoglio's positions make him a controversial figure, destined to influence the internal debate within the Church. Another prominent figure is Monsignor Tarcisio Isao Kikuchi, Archbishop of Tokyo and new cardinal. His appointment embodies Pope Francis' desire for a church that is increasingly universal and rooted in the global peripheries. His role represents a significant opening towards Asia, a region traditionally complex for Catholic evangelization. However, this choice also raises questions among traditionalists, who see in it not only a pastoral gesture, but also a strategy with deeper implications. Monsignor Tarcisio Isao Kikuchi, Archbishop of Tokyo and new cardinal, is distinguished by his commitment to ecological and social issues, in perfect harmony with Pope Francis's encyclical Laudato Si. He has frequently reiterated the need for an active role of the Church in addressing major global challenges, such as climate change, poverty, and migration. This approach, while on the one hand reflecting a high sense of moral responsibility, on the other hand, opens the debate on the position of these priorities in relation to the spiritual and sacramental mission of the Church. In particular, his attention to integral ecology raises questions. Is it possible that this attention risks relegating to the background the need to protect doctrinal purity in an increasingly secularized world? Moreover, Kikuchi's Japanese cultural context introduces new challenges. His strong support for interreligious dialogue, especially with Buddhism and Shintoism, is seen by some as an opportunity for peace, but also as a risk for Catholic identity, potentially exposed to religious relativism. Kikuchi thus presents himself as the symbol of a universal and dialoguing church, but also as a figure who embodies the tensions between modernity and tradition, between innovation and continuity. Similarly, Monsignor Ladislav Nemet, Archbishop of Belgrade and new cardinal, represents one more element of this ecclesial vision outlined by Pope Francis. His experience in the Balkans, a region marked by religious and cultural tensions, has led him to promote interreligious dialogue and ecumenism, working to build bridges between Catholics, Orthodox and other religious communities. However, what is a source of hope for some raises doubts and concerns for others. Nemet's insistence on unity and diversity, necessary in a context like the Balkans, raises the question of how far this diversity can be embraced without compromising Catholic identity. While ecumenical dialogue is crucial, the points of disagreement with orthodoxy are not only historical, but deeply theological. Nemet's appointment therefore seems like a bet on a church that prioritizes unity and dialogue, but which risks sacrificing part of its doctrinal integrity for an ecumenism that could remain superficial. Finally, the geopolitical context in which it operates should not be underestimated. In the Balkans, where religion and politics are often intertwined, his influence could play a decisive role, but also fuel tensions over a church vision perceived as too open to compromise. The Balkans are a region historically characterized by fragmentation, where the danger of tensions between different religious denominations remains latent. Nemet's inclusive approach could contribute to local reconciliation, but the cost of this pacification could be a church less rigorous in its principles and more open to compromises. Monsignor Roberto Ripolle, Archbishop of Turin, is considered one of the cardinals most representative of this new stage of the Church inaugurated by Pope Francis. A theologian and pastor, Ripolle has distinguished himself by an innovative and, according to some, bold approach to facing contemporary pastoral challenges. His theological vision focuses on the concept of an outward-looking church which, under the pontificate of Francis, has become a central point, although not without controversy. Ripolle insists on the importance of an open dialogue with modernity, imagining a church that goes beyond the repetition of dogmatic formulas and knows how to respond to the needs of a constantly evolving society. This attitude, however, raises doubts among the faithful who are more attached to tradition, who fear that adaptation may lead to a progressive loss of moral authority and doctrinal identity. When we talk about going out, many wonder about the risk of also abandoning what is essential and unchanging in the Catholic faith. Another element of debate is Ripolle's vision on liturgical matters. A supporter of celebrations closer to the people, Ripolle has encouraged interpretations that, according to some, run the risk of moving away from the traditional sacredness of the Catholic rite. For those faithful who find in the Tridentine Mass an anchor of certainty and authentic spirituality, this trend could be perceived as a sign of desacralization. Ripolle's appointment, therefore, seems to be a confirmation of the direction taken by Francis's pontificate. The Pope seems to opt for figures capable of mediating between doctrine and the complexities of today's world, even at the cost of generating tensions with those sectors of the clergy and the faithful who continue to consider tradition as an indispensable pillar of faith. The risk is that in its attempt to dialogue with the modern world, the Church ends up looking too much like it, thus losing its role as a sign of contradiction. Among the most significant cardinal appointments of Pope Francis, that of Monsignor Mykola Bichok stands out not only for its strong symbolic value, but also for the profound implications it carries. Born in the heart of one of the most turbulent areas of Europe, Mykola Bichok is not only an exponent of the Ukrainian Greek Catholic Church, but a living symbol of dialogue and mediation between tradition and modernity, East and West, war and hope. His figure is distinguished by the combination of pastoral responsibilities and geopolitical meanings, which makes him one of the most representative and, at the same time, most controversial cardinals among the new appointments. But what does this choice really mean for the universal Church? Bichok is not just a pastor, but also a symbol of resilience for a people scarred by war. His presence in the College of Cardinals highlights Pope Francis's intention for a church that is not only close to the poor and marginalized, but also capable of immersing itself in the complex political and cultural dynamics of our time. However, his appointment raises questions about a fragile balance. Can a figure so deeply rooted in a local context truly embody the universality of the Catholic message? Furthermore, Bichoc represents an Eastern church that lives in a double tension, on the one hand with Latin Catholicism and on the other with Eastern Orthodoxy. This places him at the center of issues that transcend the borders of Ukraine, addressing essential issues for the future of Catholicism, such as doctrinal unity and the role of the primacy of Rome. His appointment is not only pastoral, but also profoundly political, a sign that Pope Francis is redefining not only the internal structure of the Church, but also its position in the contemporary world. With Bichoc, the Pontiff seems to indicate a new direction for Catholicism, a faith that is not afraid to get its hands dirty in the conflicts of history, but which, in doing so, runs the risk of losing its own spiritual center. Of all the new cardinal appointments, Bichoc's seems to be the most emblematic of Francis's pontificate, bold, laden with symbolic meaning, but not without risks to the balance of tradition. What do you think? If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. God bless you.